Yeah, working. All right, excellent. Thank you for inviting me, Sonny. This is great. This is a great audience. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's my first time in Toronto. All right, so I have this is a presentation. I'm going to get this down to 25 minutes or so you guys can have questions. I am going to speak quickly because there's a lot to cover. A very quick background on me. I started out on Wall Street at Bear Stearns, then JP Morgan Chase, and then I left that space when I discovered Bitcoin, pretty much. So that was around 2015. I finally quit that world. And now I trade on my own, I travel, I write for the Bitcoin space. I do a lot of research. But today I want to talk to you guys about Bitcoin. I started a new podcast, it's called Crypto Scam. You can just Google that, I have the domain as well. So you can check that out. I know I have some followers here, but some people might be seeing me for the first time. I'm actually going to talk about Bitcoin. I'm going to talk about the history of Bitcoin, and then we'll get into what its uses can be right now, how it's what it's good for, and then I'm going to try and do some kind of a price prediction, which is what I usually do online. Right? And we're going to go right to the beginning. By the way, this is the entire history of Bitcoin, starting from 2010. It's unfortunate that the very bottom isn't being shown. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. Wait, where are we going? There it is, first one. I'm missing something. Yeah, hit play? Hit play? No. Hold on. Yeah, maximize that. And yeah, this is, shit. Oh, sorry guys. The bottom section is blocking the timeline, so it's a little unfortunate. Alright, so we're going to jump straight to the beginning. We're actually going to go before the creation of Bitcoin. I like taking people to the beginning of the internet, so now we're talking around, this is from 1998, where a Nobel-winning economist, Paul Krugman, famously said that by 2005, the internet will be nothing more than a fax machine. And he backed away from those statements afterwards because he kind of treated them as a joke. But there was another economist around the same time who had something different to say. And I'm assuming we're on the internet. And there's sound.
So that I think that the internet is going to be one of the major forces for reducing the role of government. The one thing that's missing, but that will soon be developed, is a reliable e-cash, a method whereby on the internet you can transfer funds from A to B without A knowing B or B knowing A. The way in which I can take a $20 bill and hand it over to you, and there's no record of where it came from. And you may get that without knowing who I am. That kind of thing will develop on the internet, and that will make it even easier for people to use the internet. Of course, it has its negative side. It means that the gangsters, the people who are engaged in illegal transactions will also have an easier way to carry on their business.
All right, so that's what Milton Friedman had to say in 1999. So it's unfortunate that he wasn't around. He died in 2006, so he never really got to see Bitcoin. But he was looking for some kind of a cash component on the internet, and he was looking for it in order to reduce the role of government, because government is basically in control of all of our money and financial transactions. And so here comes Bitcoin. In the very early days, it was only worth about 10 cents. It didn't really have any utility. And before it even had any utility, there was a rumor of utility. And prices move on speculation of those rumors. So at the very end of 2010, there was a rumor out of Australia. It didn't really come out of Australia. The rumor was pretty much by Amir Taki, who suggested that WikiLeaks, and the founder of WikiLeaks is Australian, so that's why I kind of put that there. And he suggested that WikiLeaks should accept Bitcoin as donations because they got cut off from all sources of funding. Credit cards and PayPal, they've all cut off support for WikiLeaks, and they were starting to become very, very popular. And he suggested that WikiLeaks should accept Bitcoin, and Satoshi actually weighed in and said, no, don't bring it on, it's a young project, we don't want that kind of attention, and also we can't handle that kind of load. And so WikiLeaks actually listened. This is in December 2010, and WikiLeaks didn't accept Bitcoin until right here, right after this bubble. That's when they officially accepted it. But something else was driving this bubble from $1 all the way up to $30. And that came out of the US. And it happened around this time, but the utility had already started. So at that time, this was Senator Chuck Schumer from New York, who went on TV for about 60 seconds and complained about this website called Silk Road, how anyone can just buy drugs on the internet. He was showing people, that's the Silk Road website, he was showing people Tor. He basically did a 1-minute tutorial on how to anonymously buy drugs online because he was complaining about it. And the traffic on Silk Road just jumped. Everyone kind of found out what this is all about. So that's pretty much what happened, and it seriously helped in this run-up. And this was the biggest bubble Bitcoin ever had, from $1 all the way to $30. And then we had our little crash down to 2. This is also the biggest crash in price Bitcoin ever had. So then we're chugging along. Now it's 2012, and in the middle of 2012, there was a big news out of China around this time, and that's because Bitcoin was mentioned as not really as an advertisement, but Bitcoin was mentioned and described on CCTV, which is a Chinese station watched by over 500 million people, which is larger than the population of the US, and I'm pretty sure way larger than the population of Canada. So that really helped drive adoption, and also the Chinese exchanges are starting to pop up in this time. BTC China was the first. This drove Bitcoin up to about 1350, and then we had one more 50% crash soon after that. Now we come to 2013. So there was a situation in Japan, and Japan had one of the first Bitcoin exchanges called Mt. Gox. They didn't have much technical expertise, but they were the first to take an initiative and allow people to buy and sell Bitcoin. They were the first exchange, and that was important, and they were still very, very popular. Research is showing that around early 2013, they activated a program called WillyBot, which was faking a lot of volume and a lot of transactions. It had a lot of fake trades. Other rumors suggest that this was to make up for a hack that they had back in 2011, and also their cold storage wallet was being drained dry from Bitcoin, so they needed to do something. And so that helped Bitcoin go up. But this bubble to 250 was driven by other factors. And that factor came to us from Europe. And this was very important. This is actually around the time when I got off my butt, even though I knew about Bitcoin for years and years, when the events of Cyprus happened. I really took it seriously that Bitcoin is something to really keep in mind. And what happened in Cyprus was that they, over the weekend, because it's always over the weekend, the banks got shut down, and on Monday nobody can get their money. And this was back in March. And the initial suggestion was that they were going to confiscate 6.75% of everyone's money under 100,000 euros and 9.9% above 100,000 euros. Nice of them to keep it in single digits for, for aesthetic purposes. And everyone, of course, got upset that, like, if you had 1,000 euros in the bank, I mean, they're going to confiscate 675%. So they changed it, and the final results were they left everyone with under 100,000 euros alone, but they confiscated everything above 100,000 at 47.5%. So they took away almost half of the money. The government just confiscated it from the Cyprus banks. And I thought that this story was way underreported. And I remember I was still working on Wall Street with PhDs, and I was like panicking. I was like the libertarian. I'm like, hey guys, this can happen here. And they're all laughing at me. No, this can't happen here. This is US. But I felt that it was. So that's when I finally got out. So this was, so of course I'm the trader and I'm buying it right into this bubble. So that was perfect. And then it crashes. You can't really see the bottom. Again, I wish I could get rid of the slide. Crashed down to about 55 bucks. And then it slowly kept moving. And this right here, in one day, we kind of crashed to 85. And this was October 1st. Anyone that hasn't seen this presentation, remember what happened on October 1st? Just yell it out. Silk Road, right. That was the Silk Road bust, okay? And this day is actually kind of funny. Sometimes I wish I participated in those markets. Maybe I would have had Bitcoin earlier than I did. To me, that area wasn't really interesting, and people at work knew it wasn't interesting to me, my friends. And multiple people were making fun of me on this day. Like even a guy came up to me at my desk, and then he's like, Silk Road is shut down, what are your Bitcoins, or what are they good for now? What are you going to do with them now? So it was a question I couldn't answer, not that I ever used it that way, but it was interesting because the next day it recovered and then it started to go up. But there were, again, other factors that drove it up. One of those factors was, I don't have it listed here, there were Senate hearings about Bitcoin and what it was, and those Senate hearings seemed to go kind of positive. The senator that did the hearings was looking at Bitcoin with an open mind, like, well, maybe we should treat it like the internet. Maybe we should just leave it alone and see what happens. Let's try not to regulate it right away. In addition, the Japanese exchange is pretty much dying, and it collapsed right here at the top. The US exchanges are all shutting down because of regulation, like TradeHill and Charlie Shrem, BitInstant. And the Chinese exchanges are basically taking over all the volume. All right, so this is basically the history of the run-up. Now let's talk about the history of the decline then after. And this was an interesting decline. And if you analyze the details of this, it actually followed the perfect path of what we consider a bubble. Right here. You have this giant paradigm, and then it falls, it traps people, then it has this return to normal, and then it actually crashes. And I usually ask, where do people think we are on this chart today? And it's hard to answer, but like some of the answers I got was, well, we're all the way back here somewhere because we haven't really seen a global mania phase in Bitcoin. And that's partially true, so I'm curious to see where it goes. But this is the anatomy of a bubble, and I keep meaning to update this chart, but I keep forgetting. I think last time I updated this particular chart was back in like October. And Bitcoin is actually this blue line, but unlike the big chart before, this time it's in a linear scale and not a logarithmic scale. So this is the bubble to 250, and this is the bubble to 1200, but there's a backdrop asset behind it, and the range goes from about $10 all the way to 50 bucks. And again, anybody want to yell out what that asset is? Silver. Okay, that was good, somebody said silver. And if you look at how silver fell in 2011, it had almost an identical pattern, and I try to like line them up. You had the top, you had the secondary top, you had this third top, you had this extended base, and then it like quickly falls and makes a bottom, which everyone thinks is the real bottom, but it wasn't, and then it goes here. So you can kind of match it up. And then around 2016, Bitcoin started leading, and Bitcoin started going up first, and silver was following, and this relationship broke down in the last 3 to 4 months. But if I had this chart updated, you would see that Bitcoin's still going up and silver is still kind of hovering down here at like 1450. So perhaps the utility of Bitcoin is being realized faster than the potential utility for hard currency. Just the basics of Bitcoin, right? We all know supply and demand. Everything is supply and demand. But when it comes to Bitcoin, what is supply and what is demand? It's a little bit different. Well, because the supply is tricky. We all know Bitcoin is still being mined. We're still creating Bitcoin. 75% of all Bitcoin is currently in circulation. We have about 25% to go. So this kind of supply of Bitcoin is predictable. But the other supply of Bitcoin is actually merchant selling. So, and these were debates. This is a debate I had back in 2014, so it's been a while now. And this is when people were saying, oh, PayPal should adopt Bitcoin, PayPal should adopt Bitcoin. And I basically said it would be terrible, because you have a lot of people holding Bitcoin and not having all that many places to spend it. But if PayPal took in Bitcoin, but the merchants didn't even know, that would be a flood of Bitcoin on the open market as sell orders and market sell orders. So anyone that's buying anything through PayPal wants to use Bitcoin, it immediately gets sold in the market. You don't create the circular economy. You don't move Bitcoin through a supply chain. You don't try to pay your employees in Bitcoin. None of that happens. And that's not how I personally want to see Bitcoin used. So I wasn't a big fan, so I was actually fighting against any kind of PayPal integration of Bitcoin, because I thought it would be very bad for the price. And I care about the price because confidence in the currency matters a lot. If your currency starts to go down really fast, the people's confidence starts to go down faster. And so I didn't see it that way. So now let's talk about demand. Demand in Bitcoin is interesting. I had this article published, the top use cases for Bitcoin, because someone actually needs Bitcoin. And yes, a lot of us are speculators, but how many of us actually need to use Bitcoin? But there are many elements that really, really need to use Bitcoin. And I wanted to highlight them and point them out to people, even if they are somewhat controversial. But there are things on this list that people wanted me to add that I didn't. Something like crypto locker, where your computer gets locked up and you need to pay a ransom. To me, that's not really all that debatable. I don't see much good in that. But everything else on this list is really debatable. It really depends on what jurisdiction and what country you live in. If you live in Puerto Rico, for example, as a U.S. citizen, it's a U.S. territory, you pay no taxes. So case number 6 is absolutely meaningless to you because you don't pay taxes anyway. If you live in a very low tax jurisdiction, you don't have to worry about that. If you live in a place where gambling is legal, well, what do you need Bitcoin for? You can just use your bank in order to fund your gambling account. So a lot of these things are debatable. It really depends on where you are. If you're in Portugal, then drugs are legal, right? If you're in Amsterdam, prostitution and some drugs are legal. So this whole list is completely debatable based on your morals and based on the laws and jurisdictions of where you are. Or the enforcement of those laws, actually. Not necessarily the laws on the books, but whether those laws are being enforced and whether they actually can be enforced. But the one I'm going to focus on, actually, is the last one here. Transferring value across borders. People always say, well, what's the killer app for Bitcoin? What's the killer app for Bitcoin? Well, it probably will never have one, because it is the killer app. It is a way to transfer value across borders. And people don't really anticipate how important that is. And again, this takes us right back to Europe, because Cyprus events have already happened. The first time I ever did this presentation was in Mexico in February 2015. And in that presentation, I highlighted Greece. I said when Greek banks fail, like Cyprus banks did, you're going to see use like Bitcoin being very, very popularized. And that's exactly what happened. Greece failed. Ever since then, I've been talking about Italy. They've had 2 scares to shut down their banks, but they haven't actually done it yet. And after Italy, it will be Spain or Portugal. I think Portugal is in slightly better shape. And Germany and France. They're also, I mean, Deutsche Bank was in big trouble recently. They seem to have somehow weaseled out of it. But, I mean, you can only do that so many times. And I think Europe is going to have major problems with their currency. I actually don't expect the euro to be around for a while. Those that follow me on YouTube hear me talk about more details, but I'm not going to get into them here. So what happens? What happens if your currency collapses? What happens if your economy starts to go down? And to me, the problem in Europe is socialism. And they're just, the laws are getting too high and the taxes are getting too high. And historically, people just moved. I always said, you know, this picture isn't really true, but now that Brexit has happened and the UK is actually getting out, this might actually be true because I expect this to be a much better situation. They're also in similar trouble, but it will be better once they're completely out, in my opinion. And I'm just going to jump over to the US, and the US is starting to put in a lot of taxes. Even like New Jersey has some kind of an exit tax where you have to pay in order to move out of the state, which is kind of weird. People still trying to figure out what exactly that is. I got really upset on this day. This is August 10th, 2015. I was going to South Carolina to speak at an event. I'm a huge Airbnb fan, always was for years, not as much anymore. And I was booking a room, and I know how much I'm supposed to pay. I travel a lot. And I'm like, why is this more expensive than normal? And I actually opened this up, like this was closed. I'm like, what is this? Occupancy taxes, where did that come from? Like, that's never been there before. I've been using Airbnb for 3 years up to that point, or more. Where did that come from? I opened it up, and it's like $37 out of my 220. And that's a good chunk. That's a good, 15-20% of my cost. All of a sudden goes to taxes, making Airbnb less compatible in price. Something else happened that day. I had to re-sign the service agreement. All those things you click OK that you never actually read. And it's Airbnb. Again, I've been using it since its early days. Like, I was actually mad when they redesigned the website, when they redesigned the logo. I was a very early user. And I'm like, you know what, let me click on this terms of service. Let me just take a look at it. I open up the whole thing. I'm like, that scroll bar looks incredibly small. I did a Control-A, Control-V into Microsoft Word. And I'm just sitting there watching Microsoft Word count the words for like 20 seconds. It came out to 33,000 words in this document for Airbnb terms of service. And I've had to sign this thing like 3 more times since then, so I'm sure it's only getting bigger. And this is different from their privacy policy. That was an additional, I think, like 6,000 words or something ridiculous like that. And that's what happens. Just some of the other notable documents. Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper for Bitcoin was only 3,500 words, which is way less than the EU regulation on the sale of cabbage, apparently. which is again why I'm not a big fan of the EU lasting very long. All right, so, and this is a problem. Like, we have governments that want to do too much, and they try to come up with laws, and no one knows what these laws are. So this is actually a bill. This was a law that passed, though now it's in a bit of question. This is also out of the US. Anybody want to take a guess at what piece of legislation this was? Obamacare. Obamacare, good. This Obamacare is actually 33,000 pages. And this is why when they say nobody read Obamacare, nobody was physically able to read Obamacare. So this is what Trump is trying to remove. This is what it looks like. I'm sure a lot of people have never seen this picture. So, and in order to get out of some of this regulation, some companies are getting very, very creative with their, you check this box. I confirm that I am not a resident of Iran, Syria, North Korea, or the state of New York. This is Volturo. They basically exchange gold for Bitcoin. and they didn't want to comply with the New York State regulation on Bitcoin, so they put a little disclaimer on their website they're not out of the U.S., so they're hopefully will be in the clear. So this is something I recently found. I was doing research on the elimination of cash, and this was a great article from Harvard Business Review, and it talked about why governments want to eliminate cash. And they actually hit on 3 of the points I've been talking about for a while now. So there's 3 reasons why countries want to eliminate cash, and we all know what happened in India, and I'll talk about that for a minute. And also I've heard talk here in Canada, getting rid of the $100 Canadian bill. There's talk in the US of the $100 bill. A lot of countries want to remove cash. So one of the reasons is that with negative interest rates, it removes your ability to exit the system. So without cash, they will be able to set any kind of monetary policy that they like. That's one reason. Another reason, and this is major, when banks shut down and people panic, they run to the ATM machines, they run to the bank, they want to withdraw the cash. If there's no cash to withdraw, there's no bank run. You don't have these like lines of people you see in the Great Depression. The pictures were identical for what happened in Greece and Cyprus, only the only difference is one was in color, one was in black and white. You put them side by side, they were really the same. You eliminate the whole bank run. I mean, there's no bank to go to get any cash out. There's no cash. But the biggest reason, and they hint on it right here, is taxes. Because governments feel that there's way too much tax evasion, that everyone's a tax cheat, and they think that they haven't solved all of our problems because everyone is avoiding taxes. And without cash, they think that they will be able to monitor every single transaction so that they can collect every penny of tax revenue. And they specifically talk about India here, saying that India would benefit the most from a cashless society because they have so many cash transactions and they're unable to collect the taxes. They actually estimated that India loses 30 to 44% of GDP to the cash market. But they also point out, I'm jumping, let me slide here. They also point out that, in this chart here, so blue means it's very easy for a country to maintain their cash system. Yellow means it's moderate, and red means it's difficult. So if your country is red, that means the government spends a lot of money maintaining the cash system, like ATM machines and printing the bills and distributing the bills and managing the bills. So basically, so countries that would benefit the most from the elimination of cash are the countries in red. The countries that would benefit the least from the elimination of cash are the countries in blue. But the higher up the chart you go, the more technologically ready your country is for the elimination of cash. So if you look at India, even though India is all the way on the right, and they would benefit the most from the elimination of cash, they're also the least ready technologically for that elimination of cash, which is why it was absolutely crazy for India to do what they did, and now trying to get from here all the way to here, where Germany, Belgium, and France are. I'm actually not sure why Canada isn't on this list. It should be up here. That's a little disrespectful by Harvard, I think. You guys really should have. So that was beef with the neighborhood where I grew up. So they might want to give Harvard a call. I was like looking for it all, like today when I was putting this together. I'm like, where's Canada? It is blue. It is a blue dot though. Estonia is pretty technically sound. Malaysia, I've been to Malaysia, not so much. I had to use like to get on the train from the airport, I had to use like a plastic token in order to put it in a machine to take a train. But then again, I just landed here in Canada and I had to fill out my information on a piece of paper at the airport. So that's also not very encouraging in 2017. All right, so Europe actually is putting in laws against cash. So here is France. They want to know every transaction, pretty much over 1,000 euros in cash. And if you're a foreigner, you get a little more leeway. If you're a local, they want a KYC. KYC is know your customer. That's why they ask you for like IDs and stuff anytime you even use some cash. Here's an example out of the US. I'm actually having a problem finding this law, but I mean, I have the number of the law, it's right here. It's just that the website seemed to have magically disappeared. So Louisiana, one of the states, actually put in a law on the books saying you can't sell your second-hand goods for cash. So if you have like a garage sale in your yard, you want to sell that bicycle, you're actually not supposed to take like a $10 bill for it. You're supposed to either take a check or have a credit card machine or something, or identify people. But again, right, this is, there's laws and there's enforcement. So it's, I'm not sure how exactly they're going to be enforcing that. Here's one that really bothers me. This is out of Germany, and I'll just read this sentence in bold. This amendment not only aims to combat illicit traffic in cultural objects in Germany, but at limiting ways of funding of terror organizations that are more and more financed by illegal excavations at archaeological sites, as well as by illicit trade in that cultural material. Okay, so in Germany, to them, apparently, the problem is that terrorists are excavating sites in order to fund their operations. Now, obviously, this is insane, but they want to register any kind of a historical or valuable artifact worth over 100 euros. And again, this is all for tax purposes. This is obviously not, I mean, some people think this is it, but in reality, this is for tax purposes because Germany and France, that region, is very, very familiar with what happens in times of distress. What happens during World War II? People had to hide their money somehow. A lot of people bought art, a lot of people bought wine, a lot of people like put it in these historical artifacts and they were able to hide them and then move them out of the country. And they're well aware of this, so right now they're trying to prevent that. They're trying to put in laws so that people aren't able to turn cash into something valuable in order to then move it out. And so basically I think they just killed their antique market and their like collector's market. I mean, why would you be in Germany? So what happens when all of these laws and rules get out of control? Well, your population moves. This is actually the population of Rome, thanks to Mark Armstrong who put this chart together. The population of Rome peaked in 400 AD at around 1.5 million people. And Rome had a problem. Rome ran into a problem where they had a big public sector, and they had a big military, and they had to support this military. They had pensions, and they had health care, and they couldn't afford it, so they kept devaluing the currency. They kept going back on those promises, and then two things happened. The soldiers themselves came and sacked Rome for what they were owed, and also they stopped protecting Rome, so that's when the barbarians came and people from outskirts started to fight Rome, and people just moved out of Rome. And this is interesting, this yellow circle right here, when the population starts to come back, and then you have this, oh, it's okay, we're coming back, and then boom. And the population in Rome bottomed at 20,000 people, so it went from 1.5 million to 20,000. It finally recovered this century when it made a new high. And governments are aware. I did a bad job eliminating what country this is, and I just realized that today. But governments are aware, so who knows what country this is? Sunny? Thank you. If you said no, I would have been, you don't visit your company enough. This is out of India. It's a customs form out of India where they want to know exactly how much gold you're bringing into the country. I'm not sure what their problem is with satellite phones, but maybe somebody from India can explain that to me. Of course. How's it? Everything is. So they really want to know what gold you're bringing in. This is where Bitcoin comes in. And these are two articles from the same publication, TechCrunch. And here is TechCrunch in February 2015, why Greece should not switch to Bitcoin. And here it is, 1 month after the Greek bank shut down, Bitcoin provider Qubit aims to help Greeks move their money. Right from the same publication. All right, so I'm going to conclude with what I usually do on the internet and in my articles. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the price and where I think that we're headed. So this is an article that I wrote for Cointelegraph back on August 31st, 2014. So we're now 2.5 years in, soon to be 3 years since I wrote that article. And just for fun, I did a little time analysis. I usually do price analysis, but I'm like, you know what, let me do some time analysis. Martin Armstrong is a person I follow as an economist, and I'm like, he has some good models, and I'm like, let me just use like the most basic possible thing and try to pick some key dates for Bitcoin's future. And this was in August 31st, 2014, and these were the dates that came out. 2015.46, which was June 16, 2015, and 2017.62, which is August something, middle of August. I always forget what day of August. But it's in the middle of August 2017. Now, at the time, the price of Bitcoin was like $500 or $600 coming down from 1,200. And this date was over a year away. So I had no idea if Bitcoin is already going back up or continued to go down. So at the time, I didn't know if this date was going to be a low or a high. But going into 2015, it was obvious it was going to be a low. And over the last 6 months, I've been pretty sure that I'm looking for this date to be a high. So let's see what actually happened on that date. And this was a chart I did, whatever this date is. This is 2015, around October, when I started doing these presentations. The first time I ever did this presentation was right here. So that's why you have these two sets of arrows. And I was looking for a low price on my date of June 16. I was looking for that price to be in just above 100. And this was, the price of Bitcoin had already fallen down to 150 a few months earlier. But this was my key date, and I'm like, oh my God, Bitcoin is already so low, how can it get any lower than my key date? Well, my key date worked out, but it didn't happen to correspond to the low of the price. And, just by magic, that date corresponded to the day of the Greek banking shutdown. I was more surprised than anybody else was. I did not profit from this at all. And then Bitcoin hit another low again at 150. So ever since up here, somewhere in this area, I was looking for Bitcoin to fall to the low 100s. It only fell to the mid 100s, and it didn't really do it on my date, so that was kind of unfortunate for me. Otherwise, I probably would have sold my apartment because I was really looking forward to that, so I kind of screwed up. And so these were, I'm going to go through these kind of quickly. Every time I do this presentation, I add another chart, and I don't remove any of the old arrows, so people can see where I was right, where I was wrong. And ever since this, when did I put this channel in? I didn't put it in here, but soon after this, I put this channel in. And I'm like, well, I'm expecting Bitcoin to stay in this channel all the way till August of this year, because that's my next key date. And we're still in this channel. This was as of before the summer even. And this was in November of this year, still in the channel. The channel hasn't changed. We're still in the channel. We kind of dipped right out of it. This is the last time I did this presentation a week ago down in Miami. And this was a picture that I took. And in Miami, when I did this presentation, I drew this arrow. This arrow has not changed at all. And here we are going back up within the channel. So I'm pretty bullish Bitcoin. And this is pretty much my last slide, because I know I'm just about out of time. And this is the Bitcoin Liquid Index. That was also the background to my kind of chart. And those of you that are traders and are looking at this, I mean, I saw this high here, this pattern, and we came up, made a new high, came down, tested the previous breakout, went back up, bounced against this line for a while, just like we did here. And then we broke out again and then fell back to touch the line. And these were just some of the tweets around that area. So right here on the day that it was falling, somebody said, well, it's 900, it's a perfect opportunity to buy. And I replied, 900 is an okay time to buy. For me, 750, 75 would be a perfect time to buy. And this was that line right here at 760. So when this was happening, somebody tweeted at me and says, getting close to 760. still going to sell up to pile in, because I said on YouTube I was going to sell a bunch of stuff and buy Bitcoin at 760. I didn't actually do that because I was kind of busy, but I said probably just I'll buy it mentally, but if someone wants to sell me some at 760 in cash, I said, because I don't buy it with my bank, I said I'm all in, like I'll totally buy it. Nobody took me up on this offer. The next day, people tweeted that, oh my God, what happens if we don't go back to 760? And we kind of didn't go back to 760. And finally, this is my view of 2017. I was quoted in Bitcoinist.net. It was me, Reggie Middleton, and Kim.com. And these are my thoughts for 2017. A lot depends on SegWit, but I am very optimistic Bitcoin. This is not trading advice, by the way, but I am looking for a high around 2,000 by my date in the summer, and then a correction, and by end of year, I am personally looking for 1,500 to 1,750 at year end. So that's kind of my view on the Bitcoin price. You can just Google me, I'm all over the web, and I guess I'm a few minutes over. I don't know if you have time for questions, but I'm around. Come grab me. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation.